All right, so hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Stefan and next to me is my colleague German.
Hello.
And we are very excited to give you a product overview on the Action Engine today. Before we start, I just point out a couple of aspects. First of all, this session is going to be recorded for the simple purpose of being able to share the presentation later on with you. Second, all attendees are going to be muted throughout the course of this webinar. However, please feel free to post any question, comment, or annotation that you have in the chat. We are making sure to collect all the questions and information continuously during the webinar, and we are going to address them at the end of the webinar in the Q&A session. That being said, let me quickly point out today's agenda while we also wait for some other participants to join potentially. To begin with, I will be giving a product overview on the Action Engine, which will last for approximately 15 minutes. After that, German is going to jump into the live demo, highlighting use case examples on the fly and also providing insights into other processes that can be tackled. After that, we are going to hand over to Mr. Schuckert, who is also on the line, the CEO of Schuckert Electronic, who is going to provide customer insights into how they are applying Action Engine, what use cases they are covering, and what value add they see in making use of the product. Last but not least, we are going to point out next steps and address the questions posted in the Q&A. And let me really clarify and emphasize that you should not in any way not contact us. So please feel free to always contact us at actionengine@celonis.com or approach your Celonis contact if you want to know how you can move forward, how you can apply the product yourself, what use cases you can cover. So we really want to engage you in experiencing the product. All right, so then let's start with the presentation. As said, my name is Stefan, and up to now I've been working for Celonis for roughly 4 years. And on the customer side, customers keep asking me the same question, which is, given the potentials that I have identified with process discovery and process analytics, how can I operationalize these findings? How can I realize untapped potential? Or in short, what to do next? What to do next in my target process to improve the target KPIs that I have in mind? What's my next best action in order management, purchase to pay, accounts payable, IT service management, or any other process? And that's precisely the question we want to address. When looking at particular challenges our customers are looking at, we experience examples that repeatedly occur across manifold processes. Looking at purchase to pay, I'm currently working together with a huge telecommunications customer of ours who is aiming at improving working capital. The customer recognizes that for many purchase orders, payment terms are manually changed to the worse and are not taking advantage of existing supplier OLAs. So the bigger question here is, how can we make sure that each purchaser purchases with the best terms possible? A second example is a huge company in the industrial manufacturing sector who is focusing on-time delivery of their customer orders. What they observe is that 23% of their deliveries have to be postponed as the initial estimate, the initially confirmed delivery date provided by their ERP system does not match the actual cycle times in their processes. So they have to postpone it raising the question, how can we make sure that every customer order is fulfilled in full and on time? And as a third example, looking at a global IT service provider we are working with, they recognized that they have tens of thousands of additional ticket forwardings in their IT service department. They have a lot of additional hops due to the fact that the ticket is initially not assigned to the most effective assignment group, leading to loops and rework in the process. The bigger question here being, how can we make sure that each ticket is resolved optimally? And those are just part of the questions that we got and that I personally got in my customer interactions, which is why we are focusing on providing a universal solution to these questions. What is this solution based on? The starting point and founding technology of our solution is the process mining technology Celonis pioneered. As you all are aware of, you are using various operational systems to cover your various business processes, be it SAP, Oracle, ServiceNow, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, or any other potentially custom system. What the process mining technology is doing is extracting the digital footprints out of these systems and connecting this information to reconstruct your as-is processes. What are you doing today? Today, you're looking back by using process discovery and analytics to reconstruct your historic process flows and identify where you have deviations, where you identify inefficiencies, and where you spot potential for improvement. The question we ask is, why not apply process mining technology in a forward-looking way? Meaning, for a customer order that has just been received and confirmed, what to do next? How to act on this customer order in order to improve on-time delivery, to make sure there are no touches, to raise productivity. So in other words, what to do next for every single order we're working with. And that's the one question we want to answer by means of the Action Engine. So you can consider the Celonis Action Engine as the AI-powered intelligent action provider for your human and or virtual workforce. So it's supporting your employees and business users to identify improvement opportunities and execute them right away without any additional manual effort. The Action Engine, from a technical perspective, is based on easily configurable and adjustable skills that you can tailor to your needs to cover any custom use case you can think of. However, how does it work in detail? How does the mechanism look like for the Action Engine? And let me clarify this in 3 steps. First, the Action Engine analyzes your operational and historical data autonomously and continuously across the modules, systems, or processes that you have connected to Celonis. Having a look at the initial example with the payment terms, the Action Engine looks at every new purchase order, compares this purchase order with master data information, as well as similar orders in the past, and spots whenever there is a potential for payment term improvement. So your business users do not have to put any effort anymore into deriving this information themselves, but Action Engine automatically analyzes in the background. Once such an improvement opportunity is identified, Action Engine communicates this opportunity to your business users, personalized and just in time. So it's about proactively providing information to your business users without them having to manually pull the information out of potentially various systems. And again, here you can rely on different communication channels such as Slack, Skype, or simply an email highlighting the improvement opportunities there exist. As a last and final step, the action engine literally executes actions and helps your business users to immediately take actions directly in their source systems. So regardless of whether you want to trigger actions in your SAP system, in cloud-based systems such as ServiceNow or Salesforce, or whether you want to trigger bots or automated workflows, Action Engine can trigger any execution engine directly out of the application itself. Such, again, your business users are more productive, can easily trigger actions, and have all information within one place. That being said, I'd like to raise the question, how does the Action Engine look like from the business user's perspective? How do they interact with the application? And that's the last slide before we jump into the live demo. From the business user's perspective, and that's the important part, Action Engine proactively triggers the communication. And for most of our customers, you can think about a daily briefing. So in this particular example, looking at Lily as a business user, she could receive a daily briefing, that is an email, for example, at 8 a.m. every morning, listing all the improvement opportunities that exist for her within her area of responsibility. And this email in this example is also the starting point for Lily to jump into her application. And that's also the starting point for me to hand over to German, who is giving an insight into the live demo.
Yes, so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to give a quick demo of the product using the example of the purchase to pay process. So how can Action Engine help us reduce spend by purchasing at the best terms possible, to increase productivity by reducing unnecessary manual activities, and how to maximize suppliers. So this is how the product looks from a business user's perspective. So what I see here is basically my personalized action list, my next best actions, so to speak. So incidents I should focus on to contribute to the company's overall goals. The purpose of this page is to give me a quick overview of what's there for me and to take actions right away. Usually, I would only see signals assigned to myself. Here, for the sake of illustration, we also added recommendations assigned to other stakeholders involved in the P2P process. So let's have a look at the various use cases present here. So Peter, for example, Peter is a purchaser, and Action Engine recommends him to use contract terms in a purchase order which is not using contract terms yet. So Action Engine helps me here to purchase with the best terms possible. And the way this works is that Action Engine analyzes all relevant purchase orders, compares them to similar orders in the past, is looking for still existing contracts to then highlight those improvement opportunities to the purchaser in charge. Another example for Peter is the following. So imagine Peter is responsible for like several hundred purchase requisitions. So how does he know how to prioritize? And here Action Engine helps him and tells him which purchase request to prioritize, because it's related to an important customer order, to make sure this order is delivered on time. So Action Engine helps us here. I mean, it's a cross-process use case. So it helps us to work consistently across departments towards the common goal of customer satisfaction. And the way Action Engine works here is it's starting from customer orders, looking for related purchase requests that have not yet been translated into purchase orders, and then based on historic cycle times, tells me when to prioritize a purchase request to make sure we can deliver on time. What we also see here are recommendations for Nora, our master data manager. So how does Action Engine help her to streamline the process and to avoid unnecessary manual activities? So here Action Engine recommends to Nora to have a look at a specific material and to check if the price in the master data is still up to date. What Action Engine detected here is that there have been frequent similar price changes for this material, such that it might make sense for her to have a closer look and to check if this price needs to be updated. Another use case, as we're looking to reduce spend in the purchasing process, is to make sure that we avoid duplicate payments. So what Action Engine does here is a smart algorithm is looking for potential duplicate invoices and is forwarding this information to Liam, who's working in the accounting department, so that he can have a look and check if those are really duplicates, and if so, he can remove the duplicate invoices. Another important example, if we're looking to reduce spend, is to make sure we reduce maverick buying, which means buying across accepted purchasing channels. So here, Action Engine can help Emma, our process owner, by informing her whenever there is frequent maverick buying, for example, for a specific company code, such that she can act proactively on that information and tackle the issues. A last use case I want to present is related to free text purchase requisitions. Many of our customers spend a lot of time, or have to spend a lot of time, converting those free text purchase requisitions into catalog orders. So it takes quite some time to check for, to look at these free text orders and check for matching catalog materials. And this is something Action Engine can help us with. So it can compare a free text purchase requisition to similar orders in the past to come up with a recommendation, and thereby helping us to shorten cycle times and also raising no-touch orders. What we see here, and Stefan mentioned that before, one can even think about automating that by assigning those recommendations to a bot, which is taking the action automatically. So in total, we've now seen how Action Engine analyzes and communicates those findings to the business user. How can the business user take action? So let's come back to Peter, the purchaser, who received this recommendation. By clicking on that recommendation, Action Engine provides further information to Peter. So the purpose of this page is to provide all information necessary for Peter to make a decision which action to take, and then to take the action right away. So what we see here is further information about the recommendation Action Engine provided Peter with. So for example, it tells him that the contract would offer a 5% discount. Furthermore, here more information about the purchase order concerned is provided. And what's really important is that this can be configured very flexibly to really make sure that all information needed to make the decision is also included here. So here it's quite easy to decide which action to take. So the action to take would be to add a contract to that order. How can Peter now take that action? And this is also, again, very easy. So here it's based on an SAP system, and Peter can, by the click of a button, jump into the SAP system and can jump into a pre-filled transaction. So all the information necessary to take that action or to execute that transaction is already included, and actually executing the transaction is only one click away. What's important to remark here is, as Stefan said before, we cannot only execute actions in SAP, but we can trigger any kind of execution action. For example, as I also mentioned before, we can also trigger a bot. So for Peter, having taken that action, what would he do now? He would mark the signal as in progress to indicate he is taking care of it, and jump back into the overview. And you can see now that this signal is marked as in progress, and after those changes have taken place, Action Engine will recognize that this signal has been resolved, and the signal will disappear from the action list, because this action list only shows relevant recommendations. We still will find it in the history, but not in our inbox anymore. So this now showed us how easy and intuitive it is for the business user to use the Action Engine, to interact with the Action Engine, and also how simple it is to realize improvement opportunities. I'd like to present some other features of the Action Engine, which are, in my mind, also quite relevant. So yeah, one important conclusion from what I said right now is that the business user basically does not need any training to start working with the Action Engine. Further features we have for the Action Engine, I think one is quite important, is that it's also about collaborative resolution. So people can jointly work on those recommendations to realize the improvement opportunities. So let's, for example, look at Nora, our master data manager. So she received the recommendation to update the price of a material in the master data. If she wants to double check with her purchaser, Peter, she can assign the signal to Peter and ask him what kind of approval or confirmation she needs from him. So she can assign the signal to him, and then it will show up in his action list. He can comment and assign it back to Nora, so that they jointly can take the action and realize this improvement opportunity. It's also possible not only to interact with one signal, but with several signals at once. So I can select several signals and assign them at once, for example, to further improve the process of interacting with signals and make it even faster and more efficient. A last feature I'd like to highlight is the following. So it's also possible to use Action Engine from your mobile device. So there's a mobile view. So it's possible to work with Action Engine on the go. So coming back to our first customer slide, our ITSM provider can check recommended ticket assignments on the go and assign them right away from his mobile. That was the last feature, which should make working with the Action Engine even more fun. So in total, that was the quick overview of Action Engine I wanted to give. So how it looks from a user perspective and how it looks in action. And with that, I want to hand over to Stefan again.
Thank you very much. So as you have seen, from the business user's perspective, it's actually highly intuitive and self-explanatory how to work with the application. And that's precisely the intended purpose, as we really are talking about a wide coverage of users here, that you shouldn't be relying on training, but that should be acting with the application, that should help them, that should not be another application they have to be trained with. However, of course, when coming up with the use cases and coming about how to set up these use cases, the question is, what can you cover and what else is there that can be tackled? And while we have already seen that you can cover or provide both your human workforce as well as your virtual workforce with intelligent recommendations for action, I want to motivate particular use case examples that exist in addition to what we have already seen. It's very important to highlight that in the demo, we have just seen a small fraction of what there is in the purchase to pay process. So looking at our customer base and other use cases we've implemented, there are actually already more than 60 use cases that we have implemented. And I'm personally convinced that there are hundreds of use cases that exist in the purchase to pay process, which is why, and that's important to emphasize, we claim and want to make sure that it's easy to set up new use cases from scratch, and that it's easy to set up these use cases without necessary IT involvement. How can we make sure that's the case? Well, Action Engine directly relates to your Celonis data model, so you do not need any lengthy IT integrations there, and you can empower your business to be able to set up these use cases, or skills as we call them, themselves. So we highly motivate a decentralized knowledge base in this example as well. Again, the purchase to pay process, use case wise, is just a small portion of the processes there are and the processes you might potentially be dealing with. So without jumping into detail, the same kind of use cases is available for the order to cash process. We also have skill lists for the accounts payable and the IT service management process. We're dealing with custom processes in the energy sector. We have one scientific journal applying Action Engine in managing their paper submissions. So you can really think about a lot of applications here. And I really want to highlight, think about your pain points, think about your challenges, and think about how we could apply it to them, rather than necessarily sticking to what we have covered already, which of course you can leverage. All right, having stated that, and having given you an introduction, I would like to also hand over to Mr. Schukat, one of the customers that has applied Action Engine from the first day, so to speak. So that's why I think it's very beneficial and insightful to have his perspective towards the product, and to also share his insights on how they are using it. So that being said, I will mute myself and hand over to you, Mr. Schukat.
Oh, thank you, Stefan. Yeah, you give a short introduction what we have done so far about the Action Engine. I just want to give a very short, brief introduction of our company. We are a wholesale distributor of electronic parts and components located in Germany near Cologne, and have a current revenue about of 100 million euros, workforce of 200 people. And quite important, you might see when we go to the Action Engine, what he had implemented. Suppliers are located worldwide, and our about 10,000 customers are located mostly in Germany and Europe. What we had a long time in mind was some setup of management of exceptions, management by exception. And we were looking for an IT solution for that, so we would be able to set it up in our company. And that came even more important for us when we were looking at automation steps we were doing, and then thought we need it definitely. And in 2017, we re-evaluated what could be done and came to the conclusion major parts of it could be built on process mining. So we approached Celonis with our demand, and their development plans for Celonis made a nearly perfect fit. So we joined forces early in late 2017. Yeah, so starting with use cases then, because we had in mind a big field of possible use cases, but as Stefan said, there are quite many, but you have to start step by step. And our focus had been on very early detection of exceptions or failures or problem, whatever you name them, in the supply chain. optimally, and that's quite important, even before they might happen, and not only if something gets wrong. So our intention was to offer our customers an exception-free experience, e.g. on-time delivery at all times. And that would be a benefit for us as well, because that would at least reduce or even avoid our cost of handling of problems. And we had from the beginning in mind that we need the detection of problems over the full end-to-end process. But first we set up several skills and signals in the purchase-to-pay process. So we set up a signal. Did we order early enough? Did our supplier confirm completely and in time? Did he ship as confirmed? And did we process in our warehouse without delays, which all could result in a not on-time delivery to our customer? And after not a long time, it took us, it was in development time. So today it might be set up in hours or days. We needed a bit longer at that time, but when it was in production, we also added several skills in the O2C process. Yeah, that's what we did on day-to-day working process on transaction. And our next steps, which we were currently addressing, is to trigger SAP workflows out of the Action Engine, so that the Action Engine can push actions immediately in the SAP system or in other systems, but we are focused mainly on SAP, both for ERP and our workhouse management. Another thing we had tried out, we made a proof of concept of multi-event signals to spot early product ranges which might see shortages in the market. And our goal is to buy early some extra stock or to place orders early to avoid running out of stock. This had been done manually before. You listen to the market, you look at every place, you look at every information you are able to get. And it is a lot of effort. So we implemented that in the Action Engine. We got from the beginning some good results, but in the moment, a bit too many false positives, and also we don't get them earlier than the humans get them in comparing. But we foresee that with more data, we are a small company, we don't have that many data going in and out, but we will gather more data and we will refine the skills, and then we are sure we will be able to get early and right detection of shortages. So you can see the AI part of what is possible with Action Engine. Yeah, that was a very brief introduction of our company and what we're doing with Celonis. If you have further questions, my name is not mentioned, but Stefan can give you my name later on if you want to contact me. That's my part. I hand over back to Stefan.
Okay, Mr. Schuckert, thank you very much for your insights. And I'm also always excited to know how this works. And actually, out of product management, we are driving a lot of customer projects ourselves because we want to have this direct feedback. We want to have the direct collaboration. And finally, it's not about creating a product for us, but for you. In any case, this is actually the last part that we wanted to share with respect to the presentation, which is why, as a very last step, I would like to point out what to do next. So that's probably the question that you are asking yourself right now. So what's your next best action now for your processes? And to my mind, there's an obvious answer, which is you should experience the Action Engine yourself. And I would like to just very quickly highlight how this could look like in a very lightweight scenario, because that's what we're actually aiming at with the whole solution. So if you think about applying Action Engine yourself, if you're curious about applying it yourself, then you can apply it in a simple 3-step procedure as we'd outlined it. First of all, pick the process or pick the processes that you want to tackle. So be it purchase to pay, regarding the questions, some other processes have been mentioned already, be it an exotic process you're looking at. Just look at the processes you want to connect to Celonis, or you might already have connected to Celonis, and pick the one that's like most valuable for you. If you have done that, we can initiate a use case workshop, either with us directly or our data scientists, together with your business. So namely a process owner, as well as a couple of key operational users on your side. That's how we've done it at Schuckert as well. So we come together, we get to know your pain points, your use cases, we provide insights, what we have done for other clients, and then we identify the set of use cases that we want to implement. Talking about implementation, we offer to then implement the skills. So we consider this to take 1 man day roughly per skill. So again, I think this is not a lot of time, and it actually already includes both the initial skill setup, the validation, and the release to the business users. So if you think about starting with 5 skills, then for the second step here, we consider this to be doable within 1 week. However, we also would like to train you. So we highly encourage and are very willing to train you to set up the skills, because you should be able to make the engine more and more powerful day by day. And we want to transfer this knowledge very happily. In the third step, actually, it's then just about releasing the application to your users. So releasing it to a wider audience, as validation has already taken place with the key users. And then you're good to go, and you're good to take action yourself. And as you are aware of, as you're participating in this webinar, we've just kicked off a couple of those webinars within this and the next 2 weeks. And the main purpose is that we really want to actively now spread the word and approach you with this product and make all of our customers familiar with the opportunities they have. So that's why please do not hesitate to contact us in any way. And actually, until the end of February, we offer special packages for this particular purpose that make it even more attractive to you, having the implementation and having like the productive setup being completed within a short period of time for your connected Celonis processes. And that being said, let me thank you very, very much for your attention. So I think we're 1 minute too early for a German. That's like too early, but still comparably on time, which is however very good, as we have a couple of minutes now for dealing with questions and answers. However, just once again, contact us at actionengine@celonis.com, also for the questions that pop up later after the webinar, also for the questions that may pop up in addition to that. And having said that, I would like to hand over to the Q&A session, and I would have a look at the very first question, such that German and I can answer jointly. And one of the first questions was, can the Action Engine also be used in combination with another ERP software, other like SAP, namely Oracle? And the simple question to this is yes. So we are actively already working with other target systems, Oracle obviously being one of the main systems besides SAP. For the IT service provider, we are tackling ServiceNow. For actually an internal department, we're tackling Salesforce. So there is no restriction with respect to that. The procedure is to look at the source system or operational system in concern, looking at the APIs or communication channels they provide, and then offer actions that make use of precisely these connections. So, German.
One additional remark, Mr. Schuckert is also still on the line, so in case you have questions directly for him, you can also ask those. So the next question I see is that you're interested in the designer side of the Action Engine and what's required to set the Action Engine up, given you have already an existing dashboard, for instance. And the answer to that question is it's very, very easy, especially if you already have an existing dashboard or analysis covering your cases, because you can directly start from any dashboard creating skills out of your analysis. So apply additional filters, and once you've created the set of signals you're interested in, you can directly start from an analysis.
Exactly, and also for a follow-up, I mean, whenever you're curious, approach us or your contact, and one can have a look at in detail there. A third question was, taking the example of the payment term optimization, can this also apply to price optimizations based on historical data? And the clear answer to that is yes. So the use case for the payment terms is just a particular example. Actually, for the very same telecommunication provider, really coincidentally, the second use case they are tackling is recognizing manual price changes and highlighting them to the local markets where they can then take action and potentially revert the changes.
Yes. Another question I see is, is Action Engine only useful if you have daily refresh of data? So this highly depends on the use case, but daily refresh of data is recommended. We've realized that with the daily refresh of data, you already can cover a lot of very useful use cases we've come across so far. And if you have a use case that needs a more frequent refresh of data, you can come back to us and rely on our powerful event collection technology to see and improve in that direction.
All right, something like a commercial question I popped up is, okay, so what's the pricing strategy of this product by process or something else? And the metric that is in place for this product is simply the number of users you want to have working with the product. So there is like a monthly fee for a user, and this fee, however, covers the hosting of the application by Celonis. It covers an arbitrary number of skills that can be exploited, and it covers like the service and everything that is included. So we really want to make sure that you can build up arbitrarily many skills and provide as much value as possible by means of the product. And you have seen Mr. Schuckert, there we have implemented 20 skills, but actually this has like been part of our first project period, I'd say. So there would be no limit in extending that. And I'm very sure that there would be other use cases are already on the list. Okay, so maybe one question to Mr. Schuckert, okay. So Mr. Schuckert, someone is asking, how do you use Action Engine in order to foresee product shortages? And also what use cases and skills have you implemented? So I'll let you comment on that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Sorry. What we have tried to set up, and as I told, we are not finished yet, but we went into the right direction. And what we have seen is if you look at how often suppliers confirm later deliveries, how often they might increase their different from what you had ordered or what they gave you before on prices. So several price increases from different suppliers, several delays in delivery times, and all that, and you could imagine even more things. These are the points which you could look at, and if you collect them, it's never just one signal. This is several signals which you need and analyze to get insight into that direction. And does it answer the question?
I guess so. Okay, excellent. And just one last question I want to pick up before we finish the session is the Action Engine like an add-on for the Celonis tool? So the Action Engine is like it's an own product, so that's important to emphasize. However, it's also to be emphasized it can be used for any client, for any customer, regarding of whether you have already the Intelligent Business Cloud in use or a Celonis on-prem system. So in an on-premise setup, you can easily connect to the Action Engine like as an additional application. So your whole data model structure, your analysis, the whole application remains the same. You just can put Action Engine on top technically and configure the skills to be used there. So that being said, actually, I'm very grateful for the numerous questions that you have, and we're also very excited to answer all of them. However, for the sake of time, I would like to close the webinar right now, collect the questions, collect the information and answers to them, and hand out both the shared recording of the webinar as well as the answer to the questions to you in the follow-up. So that being said, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you also, Mr. Schuckert, for taking part in the webinar, and looking forward to further working on actively using the Action Engine with all of the participants in this webinar. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks.